You hear this complaint all the time. Hollywood has no new ideas. Every movie is a sequel or a remake, or it's a prequel, or it's a reboot. The kids on my lawn are playing the devil's music and my shoes hurt. Well, first of all, Hollywood doesn't have any ideas at all. It's a place, not a sapient being with the ability to create anything. Also, most movies aren't even made in Hollywood anymore. Didn't you watch my video about synecdoche? But I digress. It's factually inaccurate to say that there aren't any new ideas these days. The truth is, it's more correct to say that there haven't been any new ideas since ancient Greece. In 1895, French author Georges Polti wrote an essay called The 36 Dramatic Situations. In that essay, he argued that every plot ever written can be distilled down to these 36 separate concepts. Every book you've ever read, every movie you've ever watched, every video game with a plot that you've ever played is a combination or a twist on these same 36 concepts. And granted, these plots are very broad, but pretty much every story you can think of fits into at least one of them. Crime pursued by vengeance, for example. Well, that covers everything from the Count of Monte Cristo to the Batman mythology. Revolt runs the gamut from Julius Caesar to the Hunger Games. All sacrificed for passion. If your passion is for a person, that's Romeo and Juliet. If your passion is for science and your own ego, it's Breaking Bad. And then, of course, there's my personal favorite, murderous adultery, which forms the core of every single episode of Blue's Clues.
I like Blue's Clues.
Yeah, whatever. But even if we put aside the fact that every plot has literally already been done, there's still plenty of great stories to tell. There are still plenty of great books that haven't been adapted yet, or haven't been adapted well. Every year, screenwriters turn out hundreds of new scripts. There's even an industry survey every year that compiles the best of them onto what they call the blacklist, the best unproduced scripts floating around the movie industry at that time. The lucky ones eventually get made. The problem isn't that the ideas aren't there. The problem is that the people who are in charge of deciding which ideas get made, in other words, the people with the money, are afraid of them. And honestly, it's kind of hard to blame them. Movie theater attendance still hasn't returned to what it was pre-COVID, and all these studios who have thrown billions of dollars into creating their own streaming services are learning that they're not making as much money off of them as they thought they would. Think about it. If you were in charge of a movie studio, let's call it Climax Pictures, what makes more sense? Spending money on Marvel movie number 37 or taking a shot at Unknown Image comic number 97? I mean, Marvel's got a built-in audience. Until recently, their movies were insanely profitable. I'm not saying Unknown 97 isn't a great comic book. I'm not saying that it wouldn't make a great movie. I'm saying if I'm trying to get a return on my investment, Marvel's the safer bet. Movies don't make money unless people spend money on them, whether that means going to see the movies, buying the DVDs, renting them on streaming, or subscribing to the streaming platforms that show them in some weird alchemic way that they haven't explained to us yet. And sad as it may be, most people are more likely to invest their time on something they're already familiar with. Hence all the sequels, prequels, remakes, and reboots. I think this is actually why you see a relatively high number of original horror movies as opposed to other genres. Horror movies are traditionally cheaper to make than a lot of other genres, and horror fans are more likely to take a chance on something new than a lot of other styles. Sure, they'll still turn out in droves for Halloween 37, but they'll also turn out in droves for a little indie movie that nobody's ever heard of by some director that they've never seen before. It's the horror fans that'll show up for a brand new slasher. It's the horror fans that'll show up for a new serial killer. It's the horror fans who will take a shot for a zombie that's completely unfamiliar to them. The fact is, if you want to see more original movies, the only way that's going to happen is if you give support to more original movies. Go to the theater and watch something you've never heard of before. Throw your support behind those unknown actors, unknown directors, unknown writers. That doesn't mean don't see the big movies. That just means that if you only see the big movies, then you're part of the same problem you're complaining about. There are so many stories out there that deserve your support. There are so many books full of great adventures, great romances, great histories, great universes. There are books, series of books in existence right now that are just as well thought out and detailed and mapped out and planned as anything Disney could possibly come up with. I mean, obviously it's your money. Support what you like, skip what you don't, it's your prerogative. But if all you go to see in the movie theaters is video game adaptation number 62, don't act surprised when they announce video game adaptation number 63.